that, and to add to that, Tushar Gandhi, I want to draw you in on this. When there was an austerity drive our government was going through because of the drought that affected our country, the president goes to Russia and Tajikistan in a massive Boeing with 100 people on board, including some 6 or 7 cooks.
Right, absolutely.
When recession hit Britain, Cameron travelled business class on a commercial jet as Prime Minister of the UK to India.
Arnab, I want to go back to and cite an example of Gulzarilal Nanda, the two-time Prime Minister in India. During his last days, his landlord evicted him from the one-room tenement in which he was living. He didn't get any takeaways from the government. He wasn't provided with accommodation for life or nothing of that sort. That man was actually carried out on his bed, and the bed was left on the roadside. Gulzarilal Nanda was 2 times Prime Minister of India, and this is the swing that we have had in our public office, where the greed of office is now replacing the spirit of service that office is supposed to be about. And so I think there has been absolute change in the attitude. I know of the first Chief Minister of Orissa, Nabakrushna Chaudhary. He walked out of the Chief Minister's office, and when his driver started the car, he said, "I'm no longer your boss, I'm no longer entitled to your car." Walked out of his office and got onto a state transport bus to go to his village, and that spirit is no longer there. So let's not even think about it. Let's not even expect the leaders of today to treat their office with that sanctity. Today, everything is commercialized.
Why not?
Look at the generals. Look at the generals, Arnab. Look at the generals. Arnab, look at the generals.
None of this country has changed. The country has changed for the better.
Adarsh in Mumbai, was supposed to be.
Stop this feudal attitude. Yes,
Adarsh in Mumbai was supposed to be.
Of accommodation to the troops which I spoke of, the army as a whole is peeved over 2 other issues. One, the president did not consider it appropriate to go and attend the funeral of one of the greatest generals of the Indian Army, Sam Manakshaw.
That's true.
When he died,
the commander-in-chief,
she didn't think it appropriate to go there.
Field Marshal.
Secondly, when the ex-servicemen surrendered their medals on the 1 rank 1 pension, when they sought time and again an interview with her so that they could explain their position to her, she did not even give a chance once. Instead, she deputed some deputy secretary to collect the medals. It is a sad thing, and why should the defense land be given to a president who has treated the defense personnel in this manner?
But she says, merely, she says, as in her office says, merely because the president has chosen to reside in the cantonment area, cannot be viewed as being apathetic or indifferent to the welfare of the soldiers. Surely, the city of Pune and surrounding areas have enough alternative land available for the soldiers' accommodation. I mean, this is incredible.
Amazing.
I cannot believe this press release issued by Rashtrapati Bhavan today. KC, would you have allowed this if you were in Rashtrapati Bhavan?
No.
This is the President of India saying, sorry, I choose to live in the cantonment area. You have people who you cannot accommodate it somewhere else.
You see this sense of entitlement, you see the 61 order. You see, maybe the 61 order in terms of security and other requirements today needs to be a little enlarged, but certainly you cannot go from the basic order of 61 and go on enlarging the accommodation.
Completely.
And each president who retires gets a bigger one, and now Pune one is really something surprising.
And the basic order of 62 doesn't talk about constructing a house for the president. It talks about
either renting one or
absolutely
providing accommodation. And that is where Mr. Gandhi's point is valid, because this may not be a lease in perpetuity given to the family, and this is not merely for the use of the president. I think that clarification, as Mr. Gandhi said, is germane to the argument, because you don't want this permanently to pass into the hands of the family.
But why is she doing this? You talk about perception management. Rajesh Kalra, why do you think the President of India is not worried about the fact that her legacy will be seen as steeped in the most inexplicable of controversies?
Haven't you seen what is happening in the country?
Why does she not care about her own image?
Have you not seen what is happening in the country these past few years? at least the past couple of years that you and I have been discussing on the corruption issues and all, I think people just don't care now. They just don't care. What everybody looks at it is, I will do this. After some time, people will forget. I'll have something good for myself for perpetuity, right?
Do you think she should be asked even at this point of time? She should be asked at this point of time, or the government should step in and say, let's find something more modest.
I think the government would be doing a good job if it does that. She herself should say, I don't want this. I think this is not right. It actually lowers the dignity of the office of the President of India, and it's a very sad thing. I actually feel very bad that this kind of a thing has to be debated, but it has reached such a stage.
Well, absolutely. But Tushar wanted to come. Yes, Tushar.
No, I want to talk about this rot that's not only at the top. Look at the Adarsh scam. The land was supposed to house widows of the Kargil strife. And look at how many senior army officers have taken flats unauthorizedly in that, shamelessly also, as shamelessly as the politicians themselves. Where do we put the finger? You know, generals, brigadiers, all of them, they become the salesmen for arms things and all that. The rot has gone absolutely and insidiously right from the top to the bottom, and we have just stood by and been bystanders.
Well, the President's House says that it is not true that Srimati Pratibha Dev Singh Patil has grabbed land much in excess to her entitlement. They call this report factually incorrect and malicious, and we put their point of view across tonight. However, Romesh Bhandari, do you think, given and look at the feedback we are getting tonight, do you think given the situation today, given the strong sense in India today that this kind of feudal entitlement, time for it to be locked up and thrown out and put into the dustbin, does not come as part of the... Do you think the government of India should step in, or do you think the President Patil should make a voluntary statement today to not live in that kind of massive land, simply as a gesture to the poor and downtrodden people of this country, and also to the soldiers who are denied accommodation in the same cantonment? Mr. Bhandari.
Oh, it wasn't for me, sorry.
You think she should make that gesture?
No.
You think she should make that gesture? Give it up?
No, I am not saying give it up. Look, we are still suffering from that old feudal mentality. The whole approach of politicians and bureaucrats is that once they have a position, they have to have accommodation entitled equivalent to their entitlement. A secretary to government must have this type of accommodation, a joint secretary this other type of accommodation, a member of parliament must have accommodation, a minister must have a bigger accommodation. So this is a part of the entire feudal system that we have inherited from the time of the British. We should have abolished this. How many countries is it that government provides accommodation to all its officers and to all its ministers? Now we've been following the British. The British don't do it. I think barring the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Prime Minister and maybe one or two others, they are the only ones who have designated houses. The others all live in their own homes. They drive their own cars. They don't have entourages of all the security which goes along here. I mean, there are so many things that need to really get looked into. Now, look what is happening as far as security is concerned. Black cats all over the place. And I don't know how many of those people who have such contingents of security would somebody would even want to waste one bullet on them. Now, but still that goes on. I mean, these are the types of issues that really we all should now start looking into.
Well, I think the President should also think about it.
Yes.
And maybe as a gesture, I'll say it again. Maybe as a gesture, she should give it up. I think she should
regarding the dignity of office which you spoke. On the eve of the Republic Day, this President spoke and said, when you shake a tree to bring down a bad fruit, you must be careful so that you don't bring down the tree. This is what she said. Obviously, she meant about the institutions of this country.
Well, the President...
What is she doing for the institution of the President of India?
Well, I think.
See, at the end of the day,
I think she's going to have to be careful of.
The moral of the story
Yes.
is we have another presidential election coming along.
Yeah.
Now, if certain people are going to get their family retainers, people close to the party, elected as president, I think this is an office which should be occupied by people of certain dignity and stature. You will not have these
who
problems.
bring grace to the office.
Therefore, the person should fit the office. Office is too large. Otherwise, you will have a series of these things.
Well,
See, over a period, there has been a general drift. You know, there is a lack of leadership which is very, very visible in this country. You know, it's such a sad state that it has reached a stage where we have started talking like this about the office of the President of India as well. It's a very sad day, actually, when these
Because
things
you
are
have to
actually
command loyalty. You can't demand it simply
Absolutely.
because you occupy a position.
And if you behave like everybody else is doing, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work.
I put these two questions tonight. Did the office of president suffer when Rajendra Prasad lived in an ashram?
Yeah.
After being
I think it
president
gained.
of India, or did the office of the president of India actually gain stature? That's
Absolutely.
a question which should go
And
out to everyone, and especially to
President Reddy went back to his village.
President
Incidentally-
Nilam Sanjiva Reddy went back to his village.
Incidentally, President Rajendra Prasad is supposed to have gifted his land to Vinoba Bhave.
He gifted his land to the Vinoba Bhave Trust,
Yes.
and he lived in an ashram. Was that lowering the stature of the president? Does the president's stature only go up when you travel with 100 people on a Boeing 747 or live in a house after your retirement that's big enough to accommodate many football fields? I want your take on that. I also want you to tell me tonight, put your point of view and we'll pass it across, whether you think, in your opinion, it's time to rationalize the presidency of India. To my guest tonight, thank you very much. See you again tomorrow with the news, the relevant debate here on the News Hour. Good night and goodbye.